Welcome back to Show and Tell. I'm Billie. I'm coming to you from my 9th floor apartment in Manhattan. There's a heat wave going on. It's in the high 40s. We've had below freezing temperatures for about a week, so it's a welcome respite, but it's still the perfect weather for knitting. Usually I try and do, the standard format, but I always try and sprinkle in a little something that nobody else does. So I do have a finished object. What? Who am I? I mean, I almost never have a finished sweater because they take me months to make. This one I'll tell you about. There's another one I'm going to tell you about. There's a lot for this episode, but so there is an FO. There's 3 whips today and acquisitions. So without further ado, let me get started. If you saw my Paris episode, or maybe the one just after, I talked about getting together with my cousin Sylvie when we were in Paris, who gave us, my husband and I, beautiful gifts of fragrance, and I felt like I needed to send something more than just a thank you note. So I knit a pair of wrist warmers for her, but I didn't want them to just be wrist warmers. I added in a little hole for the thumb, so if I put this on, I think that'll hold it more in place and keep more of her hand warm, and it still will have that effect of coming down the wrist inside of a coat. Her coloring is similar to mine. She hasn't let her hair go gray, but she does wear a lot of gray because she has blue eyes like I do. So I think of all the colors in the rainbow, this is probably the color that she would most prefer. And I thought it has sort of an Art Deco motif, and she knows that we were there celebrating the centennial of the 1925 Paris exposition, which is where Art Deco got its start. So that's the story behind my one and only finished object this week. Then in terms of works in progress, this sweater has been kicking around for quite a while. I put it aside. I got a little frustrated with it. Sorry, that's a row counter. When I had first knit the back, I was planning to do a decorative thing in the center of the back. I was planning to do a Russian nested doll, very colorful, using the colors from these flowers, because I thought, it's very folksy looking, so I thought I'll make it even more folksy. Well, I created my own pattern. It looked kind of good on graph paper or on stitch fiddle, but when I started executing it, my dimensions were different from the graph on my computer, and I really wasn't loving it. But when I bought the yarn to knit this, I anticipated having a good section of the back taken up with colors, so I didn't buy enough black to do that. When I changed my mind and ripped that whole thing out, and I proceeded to attempt to knit the rest of the sweater in black, I found that I'm falling a wee bit short. I think my armholes need to be a little bit deeper, and I think my sleeve cap needs to be a little bit higher to fill in that larger arm side. So I need a little more black in here. I think this sleeve is rather okay. So I at least have that. And, it's like 95% done, but it's that last little bit that's really tripping me up and frustrating me. The maker of this yarn will be at Vogue Knitting Live in January, so I'm going to contact them in advance and ask them to bring a small ball of black for me, and I'll have that just in case I need it. I have already knit the button bands in black, so I think I could salvage those and repurpose them and then just do the button bands maybe in, I can't do them in green because I already bought green buttons, so I'd have to do the button bands, I would think, in the pink, because I think pink with the green button on it would appeal to me more than red with the green button. I don't want it to look Christmassy. So it is still a work in progress. I will try and keep you updated on this. I don't know when I'm going back to it. Oh, this one's, I'll put the name on the screen, but this is the Tyrolean jumper. My next work in progress that you've seen recently is this other vintage sweater. It's hard for me to hang it up because it's not connected yet, but these are the two fronts and the back. It's all one continuous piece, and the sleeves are both done. Here's sleeve 1 and sleeve 2. So what's the problem, you ask? Well, the problem is that the sleeve is a little bit too long for me, but because everything is mitered and designed to completely match up, taking some of this off is going to throw that off. So I'm definitely going to have to fudge because I don't want the sleeve to be big. I want it to be just right. So I have some tinkering to do here. Then once I get that all set in place, I do have the collar. The button bands are knit right in. So here's my side with the buttonholes in it. Maybe if I hold it up against the gray, you can see the light coming through. Those are my buttonholes. And here's the other side of the button band. So that's already knit in. I started to run out of yarn there as well, because the bottom of this, where I currently have all this fringe hanging down, you're supposed to put some kind of an edging on here to even it out. And I was planning to weave all of these in at the same time as I put that edging on. I'm thinking about maybe just adding fringe and leaving all of this as the bottom and just leaving it be kind of folksy. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that's going to look like too crazy with all of this already going on? It'd probably make it look less vintage and more bohemian. So maybe I need to get rid of all this. I think what's supposed to happen, since there's this notch down here, is that you knit out of this. I'm guessing. I mean, I haven't read the pattern that carefully because I'm not there yet. But I think that that's probably it. There'll be like a border. So I need to do that in black. Guess what? I used up all the black I have. So missing black for there, missing black for here. Eventually I'll figure it out. It's just gone on the bottom of the pile underneath that one, because as soon as I finished the mitts, I felt like I had carte blanche to start another project. You know, I cast off, I wanted to cast on right away. If you know me, you know I don't have stash, so I couldn't turn to my bucket of sweaters quantities of yarn and pull something out. No, I actually had to purposely go shopping for yarn. In Manhattan, I now have a favorite yarn shop, H.M. Nabavian. I will have a link in the show notes with a discount code. Everything they carry is on their website. You can shop online. I have the luxury of going in person. And last week, while you were missing me, I was out buying a sweater's quantity of, guess what, more gray yarn. I think it's a good color for me, and I want to be able to wear it under some of the gray jackets that I've knit or bulky sweaters. So, I mean, I just love the color. Why not? The yarn is Pinta by Pasquale. It is 60% virgin wool, organic merino, 20% mulberry silk, and 20% ramie. So if you can see the sheen to it, that's the silk talking to you there. I love it. I love it. In a moment, I'm going to show you how it's knitting up. I actually have hand wound a ball. So I bought 8 skeins. This is the 7th one. And the 8th one, oops. This is what's left of ball number 8. So I would say this is maybe like a quarter of the ball. I had waited at about the halfway mark, and I was really happy to find out that I could knit all of this with 3/4 of a ball. So I was afraid that 8 skeins might not be enough, because on their ball band they tell you for a small to medium long sleeve sweater, you can see that right here, they estimate 8 hanks. Well, there's something very peculiar about this sweater that I didn't know until I started knitting. The pattern calls for the old UK needle sizes, 8 and 11, which are fairly small needles, but not as small as I would have expected to get the gauge that the pattern requires, which is 7 stitches to the inch. Now, I had already figured out I don't want 7 stitches to the inch. I want to be able to use their stitch count and size up the sweater, which is written for a 35-inch bust only, and that's not my size. So I thought if I did 6 stitches to the inch and use their stitch count, everything would be in proportion and I should get a reasonably good fit. But since they were calling for 7 stitches to the inch, the size needles they were specifying would not typically give you that. So I was confused. I swatched. I did this on 2 different needle sizes. One of them was giving me the gauge that I determined I was going to need. So I thought, okay, I'm off and running. I wanted to do a tubular cast on. Let me show you how that looks if you're not familiar with it. It makes a rounded edge. So different from long tail cast on in the way it looks and the way it behaves. It has the same amount of stretch as the ribbing does, whereas long tail cast on I think gives you a more rigid edging. So I used Stephen West's video to refresh my memory of how to do a tubular cast on, and he said only go down 1 needle size from the needle size that you're going to use for the rest of the sweater. So I did, and it was like, to me, a very big needle for a yarn that's kind of like a light fingering. You know, in the past I've had a lot of confusion about 2-ply, 3-ply. The Brits speak of these numbers, and I've seen people do comparisons of contemporary yarns and try and determine which one is the closest to, which contemporary yarn is closest to those vintage yarns. But I've never seen anybody talk about this one, and I think this yarn, because it is 3-ply and it is this weight that it is probably as close to anything that the women in the 1930s would have been using in the UK. So just everything seems off. I know this is the weight of the yarn, but the needle sizes just seem completely wrong to me. I'm knitting on a size 7 needle. Now, would you ever knit fingering weight yarn on a size 7? No. So I think that it's because of this pattern that it functions a little like ribbing. It pulls in. I'm pulling it and you see it bounces back. So I think the fit is looking like it's going to be good. So I'm just running with it. I'm not used to having things knit up this quickly. When I'm using fingering weight or light fingering weight yarn, things are taking me 2 to 3 months or even longer. This, I'm like a good part of the way through the back. I guess I shouldn't complain. I'm loving it. It's a little monotonous, but you know, I am doing a knit along for this. So if you want to join me, we're going to start right after the new year. Link down below for how you get more information and how you can sign up. But you'll have time to figure out your yarns, your needle size, your whatever. We'll talk about that in the first gathering, and we'll meet over Zoom. So I hope you'll join me, because it's really fun to get together with other people and all be knitting the same sweater, and everybody's knitting different yarns and different colors. And sometimes people have a different approach than I do, and sometimes their approach is more interesting than mine. So it's really fun to come together as a very small community and compare notes. If you happen to notice that the plant that's been here the last few episodes is missing, I don't think it's that I don't have a green thumb. I'm not convinced of that. I think it has to do with my heating and air conditioning unit, which is right here, right next to me, that was blowing on this plant and goes across the apartment and blows on whatever orchids I've had. So I feel like I'm the queen of killing beautiful plants, but I don't think it's my fault. It's a pity, because that was a real beauty, and I'm looking at it sadly over there. I'll try again, I think, after heat season is over, in between when we turn on the air conditioning. Yeah, I mean, I like to have some plants in the apartment to give it color and a little life, but oh well. In the last episode, I did a drawing for some of the little sample things I brought back from Paris, and I haven't heard from the person who won that drawing, so I'm going to do another drawing, and I'll put the winner here on the screen. And if you are that person, please reach out to me over on Instagram or on Ravelry. I'm at Billie Toy, both places. Okay, to round this episode out, I'm going to add some footage here of a very interesting experience I had a couple of weeks ago after I returned from Paris. The Waldorf Astoria Hotel has reopened. I took a little meander through there, but I also had scheduled a time slot for Guerlain Perfumes. They're the makers of Shalimar. Shalimar perfume was launched at the 1925 Paris Exposition. So in honor of that, Guerlain came out with a new scent of Shalimar. I forget what they call it, but it's still like Shalimar, but like new Shalimar or something. They're still keeping the original one, but they had a whole presentation. A guy spoke, but there was also a mixed media slideshow on the walls of a couple of different rooms. We moved from room to room. It was really beautifully done. So I took some short videos and some photos, and I'll put them here. You might find it interesting if you like French perfume and beautiful hotels.
heartbeat of Guerlain, but also a cornerstone of the fragrance world. Now, Guerlain has been around since 1828, so that's nearly 200 years of crafting beauty from nature, really sourcing our inspiration from nature. You've heard of farm to table. Guerlain offers garden to bottle. Weeks later, he meets the gardens of Shalimar nearby, and the word Shalimar translates into temple of eternal love. This has romanticized Jacques Guerlain. He draws this inspiration from this bold declaration of love, and he puts it into this bold perfume.
See you next time. Thanks for being here.